Members, the House is resumed. Before the dinner break, we were debating the third reading of the Land Transport, Speed Limits, Validation and Other Matters Bill. Phil Twyford was speaking and has 7 minutes remaining if he wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Phil Twyford.
There does seem to be a bit of a groundswell, Mr. Speaker, of members asking for where are the national women? And Jackie Dean has saved the day by joining us. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to reiterate, I think, one of the things that's most interesting in the departmental disclosure statement that I began to touch on before the dinner break, and that is really the reason why in the House today we're supporting the passage of this bill in spite of the distaste that I think everybody shares for retrospective legislation, in spite of the rushed, truncated process that we fear may lead to further errors being made that will require consequent future validating bills to come back to the House. The nub of it is that the potential public safety risks from motorists deliberately disregarding speed limits on the basis that they may be invalid in the event that this issue was to become publicly known about. So that's why this bill has to be dealt with under urgency. If it wasn't, it could take months under the existing legislative powers for local authorities to pass new bylaws because of the need under the Local Government Act to consult and to advertise. The final point I wanted to make, Mr. Speaker, in this debate is really to ask the government members present in this debate about whether or not they have given consideration to, and I would welcome the Minister making a contribution to answer this in this third reading debate, whether or not the Minister has considered the communications to councils, because it's quite possible that somewhere around New Zealand some council may tomorrow have a meeting in the next day or two at which their officers could recommend after a 12-month process that the council formally adopt new bylaws providing for new speed limits in their area. But if they are following the process that many councils have been for the last few years, they could simply repeat the error that the Minister thinks that possibly up to 25 territorial authorities have committed that have got them into this mess. So my understanding is that this bill will get the royal assent, if not tonight, tomorrow. Tonight, the bill will get royal assent today. This is the fastest lawmaking in the West, pretty much, all in one afternoon, and it will have the force of law before the clock strikes midnight, before the cock crows. So unless the Minister has communicated with councils in the last few hours around the country, there is the possibility that some of them may compound the error. So I would like to know whether or not the Minister's thought of that and whether or not this bill and its intent and its consequences have been communicated to councils around the country. So, Sir, just to wrap up, mistakes happen, and in this case, mistakes compound upon mistakes because of a lack of clarity in the legislation over a considerable number of years. As many as 25 local territorial authorities have got themselves into a real mess that may well have resulted in tens of thousands of traffic infringements being rendered invalid because those councils did not follow the prescribed processes in the Local Government Act that would have required them to review their bylaws. So it's a very significant problem for public safety, for the safety of people on the streets, in terms of the importance of speed limits on the roads. It really has potential reputational damage for our police, who are charged with the responsibility of implementing road safety and enforcing those speed limits. So with some reluctance, Labor will be supporting this validating legislation.
I call Jonathan